Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting number 5,325 of our glorious club. Very sad news. Our dear friend John Brezzo died over the weekend. John was an incredible guy. There will be a eulogy soon, but I'd like a short moment of silence for John, please. Thank you. Guest introductions at the microphone. Anybody have a guest? Come on up and introduce your guest and bring your guest. Don't all rush up there at once. Is it possible? I guess it's possible. No guests today. Wow. We just picked up 5 minutes on the program. Jeremy, I might have you back playing in a minute. Oh, Kathleen. Is that microphone on? It's okay, Kathleen. Hello.
Hi, Steve. So I'm a visiting Rotarian. I didn't know if you did this separately or not, because last time I was here, somehow it slipped between the cracks. My name's Jill Durig. I am a visiting Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Livermore Valley in the classification Water Management, retired. I'm also your Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, and thanks for the hard work. Mike, I'm hearing some serious buzzing up here. I think it just went away. Thank you. Any other guests or visitors? Well, thank you. Yes. Oh, Nicholas, come on up.
Watch, I'm gonna get a fine because I'm walking in late, right? Yeah. Sorry,
Maybe
President
that would be
Steve.
that might be 2 fines.
Nicholas Adams, Classification Public Relations. Nice to be with you all this afternoon. My guest today is Kiana Karn, who is a publicist with our agency in our LA office, but is working out of our San Jose office this week. So please welcome Kiana.
Welcome, Kiana. Mike, I'm still getting some buzzing up here. If you can knock it down a little, I'd really appreciate it. And Brian, I can't advance the slides. Can you advance the slide? Well, let's move into, Brian, are you trying? Let's do something I can do easily without the video. Michelle Ornat, are you here? Michelle, come on up. And I think we've got Ashley on Zoom, so if that can be queued up, that would be great also. So Michelle is getting a blue badge today. Come on up. Let's give Michelle a round of applause. She made it through the first year. Everybody take good care of her, please. So there's Ashley. Can we hear Ashley talk? Ashley?
Hello, hello.
Hi, Ashley. You were getting a blue badge today. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, everyone. It has been an honor to be a part of Rotary for my first year, and I am looking to many more years with Rotary. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley, and I've got your blue badge here, and it'll be in the box next time you come to Rotary. So again, congratulations for making it through that first year. Round of applause for Ashley. Brian, are we making any progress on the PowerPoint? Well, then let's just keep moving. Andrew Bales, can you come up? We're going to be changing the order of the agenda today, but that's just fine. So Andrew's going to talk to you about update of the annual campaign.
Well, welcome everybody, and you know, I'm here to beat everybody up again, and that's going to go on until we start collecting some money, damn it. Our response rate is getting better, but a week ago it was 23%, and now we're at 31%. Our objective was to try to get to 100% participation, and pragmatically, we were sort of hoping to see 80% happen. So there's still a lot of work to do to get people to come up. And last week, Shashir Doctor made a wonderful gift, and that is he said he would match anybody who met that $400 suggested threshold by Christmas. He would add $100 more for each of them. And so we want to take his money. He wants to give it to us. So we want to get that thing moving along. The foundation's our best tool to really be ready for the needs when they arrive. And putting money in on a collectivist basis is important. If that $400 mark seems a steep step 1 year, 1 month, 1 time, we want everybody to participate. One of the big metrics is everybody participating. So please think about it. If the 400 isn't the right number, you tell us what that number is. It's not a big issue. And finally, it's become my catchphrase. Don't make me call you. Write the check.
Thank you, Andrew. And Mike, I think we're still getting a little buzzing up here. I'm not sure if you can knock it down a little more. Brian, can you advance the PowerPoint? There we go. Who's that in the picture? Can anybody tell? Come on, Carl, come on up here. So that was a test somebody already passed. There's something missing in the photograph. I think we all know what it is. Okay, come on, come on. We're gonna have the members today be the jury. Here, speak for yourself.
I have to see the picture again, but I think it's behind my arm, isn't it? I usually I always want to pin on my t-shirts at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Can you show the photo again, please?
Yeah, see how my arm is blocking it and see my pin is.
Yeah.
Where's my pin? Oh, there it is. Yeah, see? And my arm is like this.
We're gonna let the four-way test apply, and what we're all gonna do is we're gonna thank Carl for his generosity in donating like he always does. Next up, we have a new member. Can Mike Anning and Mike Bohr please come on up to the dais? Just to warn you, Irma, you're next up, okay? I know I've been shaking it up a bit. So with the introduction, let's start with Mike Bohr.
Hello, I'm Michael David Bohr, and I'm here to introduce Michael David Anning. Our generation of parents were so original in their naming. I'll let Mike tell you about himself. I'd like to tell you about how we met. We have a lot of mutual friends, so it was inevitable, but it happened in 2013 when I was offered someone's extra ticket to Burning Man. We have a picture from that year. Do you have that? Do you know how to... This is going well. There's a, okay. There we are, performing some sort of Burning Man ritual. So we continue to go every year, of course, until COVID. Here's a picture from a later year. Got another picture for you there. See if you can recognize somebody else in that picture. That's Steve doing important research for Urban Confluence. And but what that picture doesn't it doesn't really fully describe just how miserable you were that whole time. So I also got to know Mike as a hardworking owner of a mortgage company, a husband, a father to a great daughter. He's the kind of person who follows through and checks in on people, He keeps his word, and he always seems to be very positive, which are all great qualities for a Rotarian. So I am very proud to, well, I have this, do we have any place to put this? I'm taking my band off. And I'm putting it on this microphone. And so please welcome my campmate, my mortgage broker, my golf partner and friend, Mike Anning.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. I am really excited to be here and to be part of the club. So to get everything about me in 2 minutes, I had to cut out all the jokes. So I'll get to it here pretty quickly. So, a little bit about me. So I've been married for 21 years now. My wife is Maureen. We were married in the year 2000, so every church you can think of was booked solid 2 years prior. So we did get married just a few blocks away at the First Unitarian Church on 3rd Street, and we had our wedding reception right next door at the Corinthian Ballroom. I am a father to Maya, my daughter. She is a freshman at Notre Dame. She just made the freshman volleyball team, so we're excited about that, and she enjoys theater and journalism. I am a San Jose native, so I grew up here in Japantown, and my very first job was at that Foster Freeze on 4th and Taylor. It's still a guilty pleasure. I get out there, but now I just try to stick to one ice cream every 3 months. So I still visit Santo Market as often as I can. I can be found at 4th Street Bowl in the diner having a meal with my father, who's a regular there. I currently live in Nagley Park on a wonderful street, and I am the newest Rotarian on my block. So within 6 houses, we've got Georgie Huff, we've got Dr. Vic Brasilia, and Dan Poprano and myself. So we'll try to recruit some more people. Let's see. I love all Bay Area sports. I enjoy soccer, still play when my body lets me, and golf is another passion. So I enjoy doing that. Professionally, I had a 12-year career as a project manager doing corporate facilities in construction management for a lot of the big Silicon Valley companies. And in 2001, as part of the dot-com crash, I found myself reinventing and fell into the mortgage finance industry. I haven't looked back since. In 2006, I started my own brokerage firm, and 10 years later, after a successful run, relaunched as Mosaic Mortgage Group in 2016. So what makes us different is, the definition of Mosaic is a unique whole formed by diverse elements. So what we do is we integrate the conversations around financial planning, tax planning, estate planning to make sure that our clients check all those boxes and make sure that they're really moving toward a financial goal instead of just doing the. So I am really excited to be here, and I hope I got that in. Yeah, I'm really thank you for the warm welcome. Looking forward to getting to know you.
Please introduce yourself to Mike Anning when he's at your table, and go out of your way to take good care of all of our red batters, please, everyone. Next up is Irma Garcia. Irma's going to talk about social media. She has done yeoman's work working with Ed Correa and Jeff Poley and now Maggie Padavani, trying to reach out to the world through social media and in other ways. So I'm really grateful for the way that Irma has stepped up. So Irma?
Hello, Rotarians. Let's get social. You've taken away my control here, but slide, yeah. So raise your hand if you have a Facebook, and virtually feel free to raise your hand. Yes, all these friends on there. And Twitter, raise your hand. What about LinkedIn? Okay, all right. So these are the top 3 platforms bringing in a return on investment for nonprofits. And how they do that is governed by what and how nonprofits post, as well as to whom. So let's take a closer look at these platforms and see what they have to offer Rotary. It's definitely a tool that we could make use of, but aren't really using right now. Facebook, or Meta, I don't know, it's changing its name. Identity crisis, midlife, it happens. So this one is the current king heavyweight champ of social media. and it reigns supreme among males 18 to 34. Meanwhile, its sister site, Instagram, has far more popularity, slide, with women in the same age bracket, but it also offers a huge boost in diversity. Yeah. Meanwhile, Twitter currently belongs to the boys, and it's mostly in that 25 to 34 age range. Meanwhile, the social network or networking, LinkedIn, delivers the most even playing field among genders, but still catches that 25 to 34 age group. And this is why more of you raised your hand for LinkedIn. It definitely plays into the business feel, which most of you can see, probably a return on investment in what you're posting and what you're doing on LinkedIn a little bit more than other networks. Slide. So some of you may be catching on as to why I'm talking about social media today from the podium and really kind of pushing it. Some of you may have gotten my email earlier this fall about trying to get you guys to tell me about what's going on in Rotary, and that's because we have a goal in mind. Slide. Our goal is to amplify the incredible work that Rotary is doing by attracting, retaining, and engaging a diverse membership so that we can continue to do the great work that Rotary does. Slide. The big benefits that social media offers nonprofits are promoting awareness, building communities, inspiring action, and sharing impact. Each of these should resonate when you think of Rotary. Slide. The first one's promoting awareness. It's easy. We want to talk about Rotary's mission. We want to tell people who we are. Slide. In line with recruiting folks into our Rotary family, we want to recruit the right folks. We want to recruit those that have an interest in what we're doing. Slide. How do we do that? We have to inspire action. We want to show people that we're doing great stuff, big and small. It doesn't matter what your club may be doing, whether it's donating to a small portion of like an after-school program, or really delivering gifts to firehouses. These are the kind of things we want to hear about. If your committee is doing the work, we want to talk about it. We want to tell people about it. It's really going to drive our numbers up in social media, which in turn drives numbers up here. Slide. So we also want to see that return on investment. Most of you are business folks. You want to see that the work you're doing is getting back to the club. And same thing with people like yourselves. You want to see that the time that you're spending in these committees is really, being put towards something. And we can do that through social media. We want to talk about our achievements. We want to show gratitude for people, positivity across the board. Anything you want to share, social media is the place to do it. Again, big or small. Slide. So how do you do that? Well, you reach out to our committee and we get the word out. We're working on getting more people to recognize this as a tool for your goals and for the club's goals as a whole. This flowchart kind of just walks you through that process, and while I don't have time to go through it, our fabulous tech team is going to post the video of this, which includes the slides, so feel free to take a gander. And I leave you with, slide. I leave you with, give us a like, a share, a follow. Let us know that you're out there and that you're involved. And if you can't find us through these tags, fortunately, they live on our website. Slide. And they're really easy to find. They're right up there at the top. And that's really all I have for you folks.
I think it's time that Rotary, including our club, move into the 21st century and we all start using this. I've always thought that Rotary does not do an adequate job of telling the world who we are and what we do. And so this is a way to do it in big ways. And we've got this committee of experts who's willing to help. So feel free to pick up the phone, call them, send them information you want to share, and let's all engage in that and use it. Danny Bizzuto here? Come on up, Danny. Danny's going to tell you a little bit about the holiday lunch next week, and you do need to buy tickets if you're going to go, and also about caroling.
Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. So next week we've got our Christmas dinner, holiday dinner. It's going to have wine and eggnog. It's going to be put on by the CHC, the best, my opinion, the best committee around. It's a lot of fun. If you want to get involved in a fun committee, talk to Matt Breaker. We'll have a photo booth. We're going to have Santa there, the Abominable Snowman as well. Unfortunately, Mariah Carey canceled, so she won't be here performing. We may have our Not Quite Ready for Primetime choir around though. Just possibly. They're ready in the hot seat for us. Other than that, if you can send some photos of you and your family just celebrating the wintertime, pets, even if you have some favorite stuffed animals, like my daughter has Snoopy, she messes him up all the time. Go ahead and send those over to Matt Breaker. The Rotary Summit Center will be decorated. It's the first time in a couple years, so we will have some nice decorations here, and we want to encourage you to bring guests, friends, family. It's a great open time, a fun time for all of us. And the next day, we'll actually be having cocktails and caroling. Allison and Norm Klein are going to be hosting that at their house. It's going to be adults only this time. They will be doing an open event for all ages in the future to be announced. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Given that we had almost no guests today, we only had one guest and one visitor, I've got 4 minutes to spare. Anybody want to ring the bell? Here comes someone. It's all yours, Jeff.
President Steve, I want to ring the bell in honor of John Brezzo. John was the founder of First Community Housing. As a result of his leadership and that of David Neal's, today we have over 1,800 households housed. So here's to John Brezzo.
Well done, Jeff. Rod, your turn. Maybe it's not Rod's turn. I guess it is Rod's turn.
I'm here to say thank you for the wonderful celebration of Bob Keeve's life on the 3rd. And it was done by none other than our impresario from the symphony in terms of the organizational activities, but in terms of the heart and gathering the people together. Lenora Keeve is following in her father's footsteps. And so I just wanted to remember Bob one more time and say thank you.
And you know, tomorrow is Bob's actual 100th birthday. Bob Keeve would have been 100 years old tomorrow. Isn't that incredible? One more person want to ring the bell? Carl.
Thank you, President Steve. And I'll do this really in honor of Dave Peterson, because he recognized me a month ago, and so I thought it would be better to reciprocate, because really what he's done for this club and this community has been all of his own volition and his own energy. And while he credits me with bringing him into the club, I think it's really such a great thing what he's done as a Rotarian and how he's supported our organization. So all 3 rings is what I'll do.
Thank you, Carl. He's certainly one of the good guys. With that, Arthur Jew, come on up and introduce today's speaker. And all of you, I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Thank you, President Steve. On your tables, you'll have, those of you who are here in the room, will have a little personal health assessment that we'll refer to a little later today, and those of you online will see it. But we've had a hard year, and with a lot of turmoil and uncertainty. And so we thought, heading into the holiday season, the program committee wanted to help us get a little uplift, a little hope, and some strategies to navigate the crises around us. Today we have with us to help us Dr. Elia Gorgorus. Dr. Gourgouris is president of the Happiness Center, an organization of world-leading experts in the field of positive psychology, dedicated to creating personal success and happiness. He is also the founding partner of the Global Institute of Thought Leadership, an organization that brings together best-selling authors, world-renowned speakers, industry experts, and pioneering thinkers who all share a common goal of changing the world of ideas. Dr. Elia is also the author of the #1 best-selling Amazon book, 7 Paths to Lasting Happiness, which has been translated in 5 languages, and he recently co-authored a highly acclaimed book 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis, Practical Guide to Emotionally Dealing with the Pandemic and Other Disasters. His message is featured in respected publications and media around the world. With his positive psychology background, he has helped thousands of people both in their careers and in their relationships to achieve success and better work-life integration. He's an international keynote speaker focusing on corporate wellness, mental health, positive leadership, and building resilience. As an executive coach, he inspires leaders and their companies to build a culture of trust, accountability, and empowerment. The result is that happily engaged employees are more productive, collaborative, and innovative. He works with organizations in the US, Europe, and India. He also co-hosts the Kindness and Happiness Connection podcast and was the executive producer of the reality TV show Cash Cowboys. I want to be a cash cowboy. Well, he just finished filming season 1 of his new reality TV show called The Kindness Factor. Dr. Elia was born and raised in Athens, Greece, where he became a national swimming champion. He received a BA in psychology from UCLA and went on to receive his MA and PhD in psychology. And this isn't in his bio online, but I happen to know he's a former mayor of Superior, Colorado. And also we work together on a foundation called the Get Real Foundation, which stands for Resilience, Empathy, Authenticity, and Love, which hopefully he'll go into a little bit today. So without further ado, please join us in welcoming Dr. Elia Gorgorus from Colorado.
Thank you, Arthur, for that introduction, and I'm delighted to spend a few minutes with you. I was raised in Southern California. I love California. I still consider it my home. I was in Santa Monica, actually, and my wife was born in Santa Monica. Our oldest son was born in Santa Monica, so we have deep roots in the Southern California area. So let's get started. The world has been rocked mightily, I must say, for the last 2 years. Obviously, with a multitude of crises and challenges, obviously the pandemic and its side effects, I would say the second biggest crisis facing the world right now is the mental health crisis. According to the United Nations, we have at least 2 billion people suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. Mind you, these are people that did not have pre-existing conditions. And those numbers are from November of 2020. So I think those numbers are way underreported. As a matter of fact, I don't know anybody who has not been impacted in some way, in significant way, in their lives, in their families, in their profession. The other challenge, of course, has been the economy and the financial stress. Thank you for sharing that. This comes from 17,000 HR professionals, directors, about the biggest challenges facing organizations right now. And isn't it interesting that the first one is to ensure the mental and physical well-being of our employees? I think, for the most part, organizations have done a fairly decent job ensuring the physical well-being of employees, but they have really struggled with the mental well-being. So I'm going to address that today. Typically, you would look at the second challenge, maintaining employee engagement, productivity, and effectiveness. Well, that normally is number one. And the ensuring the mental and physical well-being wouldn't even make the top 10 list of any HR prior to the pandemic. So I think you can't get number 2 right until you ensure that people at work are physically and emotionally and mentally fit. All right, so let's remove that for right now. And of course, we have the financial, I think, crisis where, you have billions of people feeling financially insecure, like, how am I going to provide for my family, for my well-being, for myself? And obviously, the social, political, and other strife that, we're facing across the world and here in this country, which unfortunately, I feel like I'm not living in the United States of America, a country that I love. I'm living in the disunited States of America. We are so split, and nobody's paying attention to anybody else. And that's not the way to come out of a crisis. So when you put all these 4 together, human beings are very resilient. We can handle 1 or 2 crises at the same time, but we can't handle 4 or 5. And mind you, I'm not including any personal crisis that people are facing. For example, taking care of a sick child or an elderly parent suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, perhaps a relationship issue, going through a divorce, or separation from their significant others. I'm not even counting these crises. So people are overwhelmed. Now, what we have discovered is when people are facing challenges and crises, there are typically four personality types in how they deal with these challenges. The first one we like to call the victim. And the victim is, why is this happening to me? Like, poor me, as if it's only happening to me and not 7 billion other people, right? So that's number one. The second one is the critic. Now, the critic, regardless of what the World Health Organization or the United Nations or the federal, state, or local government says, no matter what they say, they criticize everything. They're angry all the time. This is a silly example, of course. Elia, you should wear a mask. Well, that's stupid. Okay, Elia, never wear a mask. What are you trying to do? Kill me? Like, either way, it doesn't matter which way you go. I mean, they just criticize everything. Then you go to the third personality type, which we call the bystander. Now the bystander, mind you, is a decent, a good person. But imagine the deer with the headlights look. They are so overwhelmed by the changes that are taking place. They don't know what to do. So they're frozen in fear. And what all three of these types have in common is what? Either they feel poor me, they get mad, they're frozen in fear, but neither one of them move the needle forward to some kind of positive outcome or solution. Now we come to the fourth personality type, which we like to call the Navigator, which was also the premise of the book. Before I go into what the Navigator does, here's what's really important. And this is now I'm wearing my psychology hat. All four of those personality types exist within each one of us. It's not like, well, I'm the navigator and you're the victim and you're the critic. It's not like that. We all have those personalities within ourselves. For example, when the original lockdown happened back in March of 2020, all my speaking engagement, I had speaking engagements throughout the world, got canceled within 1 week. Like one email after another, cancel. And I have to tell you, did I feel like the victim, poor me? You're darn right I did. And did I feel like the bystander, like, oh no, what am I going to do now? Absolutely I did. You know, I was supposed to speak in Barcelona in October. It happened, but it happened on Zoom. It's not exactly the same thing as traveling to Spain and, you know, enjoying that beautiful country and speaking live. And have I been critical of a certain government's response, whether at the federal or state level from time to time? You're darn right I have. And I feel legitimately. However, and here's the key, if I stay mad, even if it's legitimate, at the government or some other entity or organization for 6 months, who am I hurting? Them or my own personal happiness and wellness? If I feel like a victim or if I'm frozen in fear, it's okay, that's normal, it's human nature. But let's just do that for like half an hour or an hour, get out of my system, and then pivot and become a navigator and live a productive life. So now, what do navigators do? First of all, they start with self-care, and I'm going to come back to that sheet in a little bit. I'm going to do that at the end. They practice massive self-care. They take care of themselves. They get quiet. And I call it downloads. You know, you can only get downloads, whether it's from the spirit or from your intuition or from your inner wisdom or from that still small voice, whatever you call that, you can't hear that unless you get really quiet and you disengage from electronics. And that's something that I've practiced for the last 30, 35 years. And I download stuff all the time on a daily basis. Now, when you get the message, what's important is, what do you do with it? Because knowledge without application is just education. We can all go out and buy the top 10 books on happiness and wellness and highlight them and underline them to death. And when we're done, put them back on the bookshelf, never to be seen again, right? Well, that doesn't make us any happier. We're actually more knowledgeable, but I'm not sure if our lives are any better. As a matter of fact, I think we're even more frustrated because now we know more, but nothing has really changed. So in life, it doesn't matter what we know. In life, what matters, what do you do with what you know? Always. So awareness is the second key. And of course, you have to prepare, you have to take initiative. Then we come to, I feel like it's one of the key components, not just for facing challenges and crisis, but that's a way to live life. And that has to do with flexibility. And I like to use the analogy of the oak tree and the palm tree. You know, the oak tree is this beautiful, magnificent majestic tree, right? Tall, huge, it's been around for 100 years, just beautiful. But at the peak of the storm, if there's enough rain and enough saturation on the ground and then enough wind, what happens to oak trees? They come crashing down, right? On people, cars, homes. We see that every year. We see that all the time. On the flip side, the palm tree, it's kind of cute. We all love palm trees. We think they're tropical and exotic and so on. At the peak of the storm, and now I want you to think about the storms of life. At the peak of the storm, the palm tree will bend and bend, sometimes even parallel to the ground. But when the storm passes, it raises up again and it survives. And not only does it survive, it's even actually stronger because its roots, it had to dig down deep down at the peak of the storm and hold on for dear life. And it's gotten stronger as a result of that. So the call to action, of course, is be a palm tree, don't be an oak tree. So as I've shared this message around the world, people have said, Dr. Elia, that's a cute story, be a palm tree, don't be an oak tree. I can remember that. But in reality, what does an oak tree sound like in human form? So somebody who is an oak tree sounds like this. Well, this is the way I've been doing things for the last 40 years. I'm not going to change now. This is who I am, right? Inflexible, stuck in their ways. And if that analogy doesn't work for you, let me ask you this. Before any great sporting event, whether it's in the NFL, NBA, baseball, football, what have you, San Francisco 49ers, right? Before the game starts, and these are professional athletes at peak performance, like they're the best that we have in terms of physicality, right? They get paid millions and millions of dollars just to play a game. But before the game starts, when they're out there on the field, what are they doing? What are they doing on the field for a half an hour before the game starts? They're stretching. Why are these people stretching when they're at their peak performance? Because if they don't, they're liable to pull a hamstring or suffer some other injury, right? So now when we think about life, are we flexible and adaptable and resilient? Or are we stuck in our ways? Organizations that were successful prior to the pandemic that have not become flexible and adaptable are really struggling right now because our world has, been flipped upside down. I can tell you, I have gray hair. I'm kind of in the last 1/3 of my life, if you will, or 1/4 of my life. My goal is until the day I die, that I become more flexible, more adaptable, less set in my ways, learn from the newer generation, be open-minded to learn from my kids, and so on, because that's what keeps me young. And when we're learning new things, what happens to our brains, right? It's like the best drink in the world. So to continue to learn until my last day, that's my goal. And people are kind of surprised by that. I'm like, because, when we get older, we say, well, I'm kind of set in my ways. I don't want to be set in my ways. I want to be more open-minded and be more flexible and adaptable as we go on. The other key factor that navigators have is that they truly approach life with a positive attitude, meaning, I know humanity is taking a beating for the last 2 years. We're getting our butts kicked. Nobody thought we'd be in our 5th wave, that we're still wearing masks. We're going into 2022. Nobody ever thought that. However, this is not going to be the end of us. These too shall pass. Is it taking longer than expected? Absolutely it is. Has it been hard? Of course it has. But navigators always maintain a positive attitude that in the end, we will overcome. And the last key to navigating a crisis is kindness. We start with self-care, which I'm going to finish with, but then we end with kindness. Why is that important? First of all, happy people, because their batteries are full, because they practice great self-care, perform acts of kindness and acts of service all the time, because they're full. On the flip side, when we as human beings perform acts of kindness, something happens to us innately. We feel better about it. I can tell you, if I'm down and I'm stressed or whatever, the quickest way for me to get outside of myself and stop being the victim, which, remember the 4 personality times, is to go out and help somebody else. So my call to action to people is, if you're feeling down and out, go and help somebody else. So I have to I have to share this with you. As I've shared this message, I've had people push back on that, even at the peak of the pandemic, and we're like, Dr. Elia, I'm stuck in my apartment. I can't help anybody. I'm out of work. I don't have any money. What am I, my brother's keeper? That's an actual phrase. Somebody said that on live television. What am I, my brother's keeper? You know what my answer to that is? And I leaned closer to the camera. I said, no, you're not your brother's keeper. You're your mother's keeper, and your sister's keeper, and your friend's keeper, and your neighbor's keeper down the street, or the homeless person that you just passed by at the freeway exit, right? Because in the end, we're all brothers and sisters, and we're here to help one another. And as we do that, we make this world a better place. So that kind of takes care of 90% of the critics about kindness. But I've had a few that pushed back even beyond that. It's like, well, I can't help anybody because I'm stuck here. I'm like, well, that's not true either. And this is a small example. Back in April of 2020, and again, I was downloading, I heard the voice in me say, Helen, you need to call Helen. Now, Helen's a friend of mine. We've been friends for 40 years. She got a PhD from USC. She's a professor at one of the universities. And out of the blue, her name came up to me. So I called her up. And it was kind of like almost midnight in Greece because it was like a 10-hour difference. She says, Elia, why are you calling me? I said, I don't really know. Your name keeps coming to me. I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing. And she says to me, it's interesting that you called because, and I didn't know this about her, by the way. She says, I suffer from pretty severe asthma. Now, remember, this is before the vaccines. This is the early on of the pandemic. She said, for the last 10 days, I've moved to a little apartment all by myself. I can't be around anybody else. And she said to me, have you ever been alone for 9 days where you never talked or touched another human being? And I had to really think about it. I said, honestly, I don't think I've ever had that happen to me. No, I'm a people person. I love people. I'm always around people. She says, I'm going to be isolating myself for at least the next 30 to 45 days like that. And it's been really hard, but I appreciate you calling. And I made a commitment. I said, I'm going to start checking in with you on a weekly basis. You could say, well, that's a very small act of service. It didn't cost me anything other than a Zoom call, right? But reaching out to somebody else in their time of need, what is the worst thing that somebody can tell you? Why are you calling me? That's the worst thing they can tell you. But more often than not, there's a reason why somebody's name came up, and you've thought about them. So when that happens, take action and connect with those people. And you'll be, I know you'll be blessed yourself, because remember, with kindness, the benefits are both to the giver and to the receiver. So having said all that, now let's go back to self-care. And for those of you that have the personal health assessment, this is something that I created as a result of having to write a book. And in the first chapter about self-care, I felt like, and by the way, I take the personal health assessment myself on the first of every month. So this isn't like I do this once and then I'm done, and then and the way that the best way to look at this, when you look at, our physical health, is this, and our mental and emotional health, it's on a scale of 1 through 5. 5, of course, means I'm doing outstanding. 4 means I'm doing really well. If you score yourself a 3, that means I do it sometimes, which, by the way, 3 is not a bad score. There we go. Thanks so much. But it just means that there's room for improvement. 2 or 1 or 2, 1 means I'm doing nothing, or 2, I'm doing it rarely. If you find yourself scoring on this assessment a 1 or a 2, then you need to circle that with a red pen, because that's a red flag. Anything that we score a 1 and a 2 has a direct impact on not only our health, but our happiness as well. So, I don't know if we have time to go through all 20 of these, but very quickly, for our physical health, how's our energy throughout the day? How rested do you feel when you wake up? The pandemic has caused an unprecedented disruption to our sleep patterns. Even if people are sleeping, they're not sleeping restfully. So number 2, because I've done hundreds of thousands. This assessment has been spread and it's been given to hundreds of thousands of people. Number 2, a lot of people give a very low score to that. How healthy is your diet? I've had to make some adjustments during the last couple of years. eating much more mindfully and thoughtfully than I ever have before in my life. What's your level of activity and exercise throughout the day? Well, that's an interesting one. Before the pandemic, I used to walk like 3 days a week, like, for an hour, 3 miles, a day. Why? Because I have gray hair and I felt like I needed to do that. But as my own stress level increased to take care of my family, my extended family, friends, clients, and so on, that wasn't enough anymore. So since I want to say April of 2020, so it's been over a year and a half now, I walk for an hour a day, every single day, no matter what. And by the way, I don't always, take my phone with me. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I walk outside and I look at the blue skies and the beautiful trees and the birds singing. And I think, I meditate. Yes, I get my exercise. This isn't about becoming a triathlete or anything like that. It's about movement, because movement is energy. You feel the sun and the sun rays, and we know what benefits that have. So movement is life. However much, if you were doing half of it before, double it up right now. Remember, as our stress level goes up, we too must go up in terms of our self-care. And of course, how well do we function without escaping? We know from the studies that have been done that people have been escaping. I just read one today in the UK, how much alcohol consumption has gone through the roof during the pandemic. Are we escaping other things, or are we staying focused? All right, let's go on to the next one, which is mental health. Again, remember, becoming a navigator is all about remaining in positive attitude. This too shall pass. Yes, I'm not in denial that this has been hard, but we will overcome this. How's your ability to stay focused right now? I kind of really struggle with this one. I mean, this is one that I consistently give myself a 2. When people are stressed, they tend to lose their focus. Like I will do a task maybe at 80% and then not quite finished and then jump to something else. So, for me, that's actually one of the areas that I still need to improve. How are we at keeping life's events in perspective? Remember, again, these too shall pass. We're not going to be here forever. Yes, it's lasted much longer than we're all tired and exhausted. We're sick and tired of it. I get it. But think about the big picture, right? How grateful do you feel right now? Obviously, physiologically, we cannot be grateful and depressed at the same time. Those two things cannot happen in our brains. So people that practice gratitude on a daily basis tend to be much, much better off and much, much happier. Now, having said that, we're all graduates from the University of Adversity, all of us. And the older we get, the higher the degree, the more adversity we have faced in life. So then the question, of course, becomes, can we be grateful in the midst of adversity? And are there lessons to learn? During the pandemic, my biggest takeaway, people have said, well, what's your takeaway from the last 2 years? You know what my biggest takeaway is? Do not procrastinate your happiness. Not for when the kids grow up, or when I retire, or when this happens, or when I get this raise, or when I'm in the right relationship, or when forget all the whens. There are no guarantees that any one of us will be around next month. And as a result of that, at least for me, it has freed me to try to live my best life right now. I'm not waiting for something to happen in order then to be happy or to live the best life. And of course, how often are you hearing other people's opinions and points of views, especially when they're different from your own? Again, I come back to the disunity that's facing our nation. This is so vitally important. Remember that, the old saying that the mind is like the parachute, it only works when it's open. Even if I disagree with somebody, I'm curious as to why do you think the way that you do? I don't have to agree with you, but at least I want to seek to understand, where are you coming from? Because I don't see, that way, whether it's politically or some other way, but I'm curious to understand the other person's point of view and not get offended just because they're different from me. All right, let's go on to the next one, which is the emotional health. There's no greater act of self-compassion than self-forgiveness. And, Gandhi once said that forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. What I know in my personal life, my first half of my career, I was a clinical psychologist in private practice. I saw thousands of people who struggled because of self-defeating thoughts that led to perhaps self-destructive behaviors, a lot of addictions and so on. But even as they went through their healing process, and even made amends to those that they had offended and hurt as a result of their actions, and were forgiven by all those people. When I had my last interview for them, I would always ask him, have you forgiven yourself? You know what the most common answer was? No. Or the best answer I ever got was, I'm working on it. So self-forgiveness is vital. And I have a process that I take people through, how to, because most people know that self-forgiveness is important. They often struggle. They don't know how to go about doing it. Maintaining a healthy life-work balance. Actually, my partner and I want to change that question. Life-work balance to me is elusive and never truly happens. I think the better question is, how well do we maintain a healthy life-work integration, especially now that people are working from home a lot and we're in this hybrid, workplace? How well do you integrate your work and your personal life? Again, flexibility under stress, we already talked about that. How much does humor, laughter, and playfulness be part of your daily life? I can tell you that's like a 5 for me. I'm Greek, so we love to play and be lighthearted and have fun. We know now through studies that if a person laughs an hour a day, now listen to this, the chemicals that are released in our brain stay there for 24 hours. I mean, this is the happiest pill. It doesn't cost anything, and it's free. To find the lightheartedness and the playfulness is a huge part towards one's happiness and wellness. And of course, how healthy are your relationships? And the reason why this is vitally important is this. We can practice all the self-care stuff in the world, but if we surround ourselves with toxic people and we have toxic relationships, that's really going to erode and undermine our own personal wellness and happiness. And the last part is the spiritual balance. And if we're running out of time, that's okay. You can do that. Again, as you don't take this assessment just once. I do it every single month on the first of every month because it's easier for me to remember. Focus on things you're doing well. Your 4s and your 5s, pat yourself on the back and say, great job. If you score a 3, it's okay. It just means there's room for improvement. But anything that's a 1 or 2, don't ignore that, because that has definitely an impact, not only on our health, but more importantly on our happiness. I'm open to some questions. I was told that we might have 5 or 10 minutes for some Q&A afterwards. But these are my thoughts. Don't procrastinate your happiness. Happiness now.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's give Dr. Elia a big hand. I usually don't like shrinks because they're always psychoanalyzing, finding all this stuff wrong. But Dr. Elia, he's the real exception. So we love Dr. Elia. So we're open for we have a couple of minutes for questions. Anybody have a question? Just come right up here to the mic for him. Ask Dr. Elia. Any questions or comments? Great, we have a question.
So my question is, so the millennials are known for kind of spearheading, mental health and awareness, especially when it comes to their employees or being employees. I'm wondering how to encourage the generation before us, like Gen X and older, to also take up arms and really take care of their mental health from a workplace standard.
Yeah, no, I love that question. And I think I have one of my sons is a millennial, and I appreciate that. I work with multiple generations of employees and senior leaders. I think the millennial generation are much more comfortable, and I applaud the fact that they've pushed this to the forefront. I think for, older generations, it's not something that we really like to talk about. But there has been a stigma, if you will, growing up. But I think it's changing. I'm finding more and more people being open to discussing the fact that, I'm struggling. When I talk to senior leaders, especially HR senior leaders, and when their employees actually were at home, I'm like, when you reach out to them, don't ask them how they're doing. That's not enough, because nobody's going to tell you the truth. Lean into the camera and say, you know what? How are you really doing? How's your family? How are your kids? What can I do to help you? Or what can we as a company do to help you? And if you want some extra credit as a senior leader, don't stop there. Be what I call it, practice hot communication, HOT, honest, open, and transparent. As a leader, it's a perfect opportunity. Now is the time for us to show up entirely different and say, you know what? By the way, I'm struggling too. It's been really hard for me. I've missed seeing people at work and going from, touching people and just connecting with people and seeing them live. This is really hard. My kids haven't gone to school for 9 months. It's driving my wife and I crazy. Like, if you show that kind of honesty, authenticity, and transparency to your employees, you're going to make it much, much easier for them to open up to you and to trust you and basically realize that we're all in this together, right? So I think that we need to show up differently than we have in the past.
Thank you. That's pretty effective when you lean into the camera. I got to remember that. That's good. Next question.
Hi, Dr. Elia. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. This is an area that I think about a lot, and I've had lots of anxiety, and I really practice gratitude a lot. Lately, I know what to tell you. I think of the documentary called Happy that came out in the late 90s. It reminds me of all of this work, and it's a beautiful documentary. Lately, I've been really suffering from a lot of climate crisis, and a lot of data says that this could be an existential issue if we don't get it under control. My question is, are you seeing that in your practice, particularly about climate anxiety, and what message do you have if we don't get this figured out? It seems really stressful.
Thank you for your kind comments, and thank you for the question. I think, I'm an optimist by nature, and I always feel there's a solution to every problem. And I believe that we are, as a human race, innovative enough and creative enough. And anytime there has been a serious challenge to this world, we have always come up with a solution. A lot of times, I see the statistics and I see the numbers, and believe me, I was in Greece this last summer for a couple of months, and we had heat waves that we have never seen before, and fires. In our own home, we almost got evacuated twice. It was a very close call, and we live next to the water, to give you an idea. And the fires came all the way down to the water, unprecedented. But I still believe that when people come together and facing a common enemy, which is of our own doing, by the way, that we will come with the solutions. And that's just my take. On a smaller scale, because I can't control climate change any more than I control the US government, anything else. I always come back and say, what do I control within my own sphere of influence, right? Do I recycle? Do I turn off the lights? Is my next car going to be an electric car? Like, what do I control? And that makes me feel a little bit better. Otherwise, it can be quite overwhelming. So that's how I approach that. What do you control versus what you don't? And if you feel like you have control of, even if it's small baby steps, but you take that action, that helps. It's your own small way of helping this planet get back on track. But we have a lot of work to do. And governments, I know they met this summer and they have certain quotas and certain deadlines and so on. I just think we need to do more.
Great, thank you. We have one last question, quick answer.
Hi, this is Karen Fox, and I love your talk, and I love the survey you put out. I was actually thinking about it in bed last night. I've been dealing with some social stressors, and just started attending video therapy, which is great. I highly recommend it. One of the things that really helped me was to reframe the problem, so that you're looking at it a different way. I found that really helpful. Is there any other suggestions like that you might have?
You have a 15-second answer there?
Yeah, I think reframing, it always helps. This is a whole long discussion, so I'm not going to give like a pat answer. But I just think that we have a lot more control over our lives, even though it doesn't feel that way. If we step back and we get quiet and we listen and then act upon the messages that we download, I think that's marvelous if we can do that. And Arthur, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know this was quick. Usually my talks are like an hour, so I had to fast forward everything as much as I could. But thank you so much for the opportunity to share some of these thoughts with you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gourgouris, for today's program, and a contribution has been made on your behalf to the Get Real Foundation. Remind everyone that if you're coming next week to the luncheon, you need to sign up in advance. So please don't just show up. There's a lot of planning that's involved, and can't speak for all of you, but I'm grateful for all of you. So have a great week.